Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another Prepare to Repair show, powered by Ferguson Supply Kitchen, Bath, and Lighting Showroom, located at 7950 West 185th Street in beautiful Tinley Park. Whether you're looking to do a minor facelift or a full kitchen and bath remodel, Ferguson has you covered, and by RJ Graham Plumbing. You can reach us at area code 708-743-7426 or at rjgrahamplumbing.com. Joining me on today's show, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Robert Bogda with Zark Heating and Cooling. How are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me, Steve.
Good, man. As you know, people who listen to the show know that Rob's been on the show many of times, and he's back to discuss how summer has been going so far for his business and how he's been treating his customers, and how busy he's been, or how anything new and exciting that's happened over there. And we're going to be discussing the weather's changing. So yeah, we blinked our eyes, and the weather we're starting to get into fall.
That's it.
So we're going to.
Pumpkin spice season will be here before you know it.
What is it with you people and the pumpkins, man? We were just talking about that, and people were making fun of me. So, so if you got any questions for any of our guests, please feel free to shoot us a text at 708-964-5500, and we'll get you some answers for those questions. Yeah, shoot us a text. We want to know. Also, if there's somebody that you would like to have us on the show, or we should have on the show, contractor or a professional in a specific field, let us know. We'd love to have them on the show, and we can let us know who you want to see. But I want to last week, I want to kind of wrap up a little bit of what we spoke about last week. I was talking about sewers and drainage and flooding issues, and I had so much information to throw out in a relatively short period of time, and I kind of bounced around a little bit, maybe jumped off of topic a little bit at times, so it may have been a lot to take in. But I wanted to wrap up one thing that I did forget, and that was televising of sewer lines. And we get a lot of calls for people wanting to camera sewer line when they have issues, and the camera is one of those products, or one of those tools, I should say, that will help you. It's to find if there's an issue. It's not a tool that's going to resolve anything per se. I mean, it's not going to fix anything like a rotter or anything like that, or a drain cleaning machine. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to let you know if there's a problem or if there's not a problem. So keep that in mind when you're calling up and you're having a chronic issue, and say, okay, well, I want a sewer camera. If the line is full of water and your camera's not going to see anything, camera can't see underwater. So the line would have to be rotted in order to basically get that water out, or at least drop the water, so you can camera the line and see exactly what's going on there. If there's a possibility, or if you cannot get that line opened in any way, shape, or form, then what the camera is going to be is you're basically going to be doing a locate to make a repair at that specific spot. And what you want to do in that case is the rod and the camera or the locator, you want to stop in the same spot, so you're isolating that problem area to one location. If the rodder stops in one spot and the camera stops 10 feet prior to that, you're not going to want to repair 10 feet of pipe, because you're not going to get an accurate location. So just keep in mind when you're handling problem drains, get the right people, get a professional that is reputable, that you trust, that is going to come out and be able to give you the right information that you need, that is going to get you resolution, that's going to guarantee the resolution, because you don't want to spend all thousands of dollars making a repair only to find out, oh yeah, there's another problem down the line. Oops, there's another problem. You can play a whole lot of money trying to play this little cat and mouse game. A reputable contractor will give you a starting point, explain all the possibilities, what could happen, the variables, and then you can go from there on your particular situation. So just wanted to kind of wrap up on that. And if you if you didn't catch last week's show, you can listen to it on preparetorepair.com, and you'll be able to catch some of the information we gave then. And what I'm going to do now is, after wrapping that up, because I don't want to keep droning on about that, but it is very important because drain issues are huge. It's one of the biggest things people fear. But I do have to talk, and Mr. Robert here is going to help me introduce somebody I really, really love and care about. I've known him for a very long time, and it's weird how long I've met him. He's making his radio debut today. He is Steven Suarez Jr. Yeah, it's weird. We meet at the strangest of places. I met him at the hospital.
You guys go way back.
Oh, yeah.
Way back.
Exactly. And he is my right-hand man. He's been helping me with a lot of the water treatment that we have gotten into. He's went on several seminars and manufacturer events regarding water treatment and educational venues that they've had to gain as much information as possible to help with people with problem water. And you know, in our area, Rob, how bad water can be.
Yeah, well water and even city well needs to be treated.
Absolutely. So getting into that, because we've gotten a lot of calls for that, and he was really interested in that particular avenue. So he took that and he's absorbed that like a sponge. So I'm going to ask him a few questions on it so we can educate some listeners out there that are having bad water.
Let's do it.
And look at you.
I'm ready.
First your sister, now you.
I'm working my way.
Silent Al and Screaming Steve. Okay. My first question for you, what is hard water?
Hard water is usually a number of things. It's a buildup of magnesium and calcium usually in the water, and it's measured in grains per gallon, which can all get measured in a test relatively simply. And then you'll usually see that building up in right outside your faucet or along the curtains of like your shower, and like when it starts getting like that yellowy, that's the iron in the water.
Okay.
And we can go on for a whole show about this. But what your softener is meant to do is reacts with the magnesium and calcium in the water to pull it out. Inside your softener, it's almost like these little beads. They're like plastic beads. And how it works is the water comes in, reacts with this, and it goes out to your house. But as it's going through, the beads absorb everything and they expand, and the chemical reaction kind of stops, depending on how hard your water is. So usually on your softener, newer models, they'll have amount of gallons you have left that is soft water. But what the salt is for, which most softeners have salt, is it runs through, drains out all the water that it has, brings the salt water in, it drains out everything it has, kind of shrinks those particles, drains out everything that it has, drains out that salt water, and now that the beads that they are, if you've ever seen the inside, they get replenished, and then you have that soft water again. And you have to make sure that your softener is adequately sized for your house. But that's just hardness in itself. So there's iron, and then you have chlorine and whatever else can be in your water. So if you have an okay amount of iron, like you have to test to see how much is in there. But if you have too much iron, you'd want to get some kind of filter beforehand, because too much iron in your water will it'll shorten the life of your softener, because it's not meant to be a filter for iron, but it'll take out trace amounts. And at that point, you get what's usually called an iron breaker, which instead of taking in that salt, it has its own regeneration process, but it's just oxygen. So you don't need salt for that. Iron filter takes out the iron. And then for other stuff like chlorine would be in your water, that would be its own filter in itself. And then because municipal water is chlorinated, some places chlorinate more than others. I've heard that in some places after heavy rains, when they try to reclimate that water, they'll extra chlorinate it. So like you'll have to just be aware of that. But
so water's basically constantly evolving. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like I've always said, there's no set it and forget it type of action on these. when you have hard water, whether it's municipal well, whatever the case may be, you have to constantly monitor it to make sure you keep your water quality where you need it to be.
Especially well.
Exactly. So that is, the key thing. And to keep that water quality where you want it, regular testing could be done. Mm-hmm. And what would you recommend regular testing?
You could go every change of the season, maybe yearly, just to make sure that your water is staying the same, because you don't know what's going on. Construction can happen. They can edit some kind of underground water can happen. It's so many factors. You could do one yearly just to make sure if you notice anything different in your water. Okay. Because if you have hard water and you switch over and you finally get a softener that's working, it is a world of a difference.
Okay.
I've actually had a couple people, customers of ours, have the water softener and then ask, we don't get into that stuff, so we'll refer them to you guys or whatever, but they say, well, I'm getting salt. I get salt water coming out. You should never get salt water coming out of your tap. That's just used to clean the internals of the water softener, correct?
Yeah, it shouldn't add too much salt. I've heard of people saying that they were worried about the salt and the softener adding like sodium to their water. I've seen it may add a little bit, but you shouldn't be getting salt water. That could be the softener being set too high, possibly. I haven't really looked into that, but that is something that I'm actually going to look up once we get done here now. But because of the way it regenerates and because in your softener it does its own equation. It goes off of how much salt would be optimal versus how hard your water is, and then it gives you an approximate number of gallons that you should get out of that. So maybe if it's set too high, then it's using too much salt and you'd have some left over.
And the salt is just used as a cleaning agent, so to speak, to clean those beads, regenerate them.
Yeah, it's just clearing out all the magnesium and calcium, draining it out, refilling it. The salt, sodium, the bags you buy at the store, drains it all down, regenerates, takes that out, and then you're ready to use your water because the beads, they're just really, they're almost like small ball bearings.
Okay.
And the optimum way for this, your regeneration line or your discharge line on these particular softeners, you would not want them to go, if you're on a well and septic, you don't want them going to your septic tank. You don't want them draining into a pump or a line that's going to your septic tank, because this will offset your bacterial balance in your septic tank. So you really don't want them to go there. Possibly maybe a sump pit or something like that. So that's definitely what you want to avoid to keep that, keep your septic tank from working properly. Now, I would say the next thing I want to ask you, because I have a lot to say, that's why I'm on the radio. What would you say some of the biggest issues that we find with bad water? What's the biggest issues people have with their water?
Well, around here, I feel like they're not using the right softeners. Like around this area, the south suburbs, very hard water. And a lot of people grab just off-the-shelf softeners from big box stores, and they're not really built to last.
Okay.
You get 5 years out of them, maybe. Usually we try to get the better quality ones, and I believe it makes a pretty big difference.
Right. Well, I mean, I'd say based on the application, depending on what type, because I mean, there's some areas that have really bad water, and maybe a box store would work for their application because their water isn't that bad. But then you have others that literally could be 5 blocks over and have, just water's 10 times as bad. So it's really depending on the application that you want to get, right?
Yeah, because if your water is like treated like municipal water, if you have usually better treated water, you could get a softener, because sometimes the water is still a bit hard, but you have like the mix of chlorine, like you have a whole bunch of nothing is on the scale where you should really be worried, but sometimes you see the little scale building up on your faucet, and eventually that shortens the life of the faucet. It shortens the life of your dishwasher, your water heaters, the heads of your shower, like all the little stuff that adds up over time because it just builds up and builds up. The softener really helps with that. That is the one thing that the water softener does, the hard work of what any water filter should do, so the fixtures don't have to.
Right. Well, basically to start off, if you have questions about your water, have it tested, This way you know exactly what you're working with. Then you can go from there, because going online to buy specific products just because your neighbor has it or just because somebody told you about it, it may not work for your application, or a family member told you to. It may not work for your application. Testing your water will tell you what exactly you have in it, so you know what you want to remove. So if you know, once you know what you want to remove, then you can get the system that will work for your application. Now, another thing people like to get, and people like the RO systems. And RO systems are great to give you great tasting water. It is pure water. It is also very, very, what's the best way to put it? It is not very good for you because it's pure water. There's no minerals in it. Water is a magnet. Water will try to replenish itself, all the minerals it lost. So it is one of those products that you really, you don't want to drink that on a regular basis, because again, it's pure water. It'll rip all the minerals out of your body as you're drinking it. It's just not very good water.
That's what the remineralizers are for. They usually have the remineralizers, or you salt it.
Exactly.
I like putting a little sea salt.
And I didn't really realize that. I was watching actually Modern Marvels on the History Channel, and I was watching how they do the desalination plants in Florida and San Diego. And what they do is they use just a series of RO filters. And once it goes through them, before it goes to the tanks, they have to add minerals to it. Otherwise, it will basically eat away the tanks.
Oh, wow.
Trying to pull it back. That's why in RO systems, you'll find that the supply lines coming out of them are all plastic. Because if you use copper, it'll eat away the copper. So we're learning a lot about water.
Yeah, right.
You're listening to the Prepare to Repair show here on 1340 WJOL. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back, and we'll be talking to Mr. Robert Bogda with Zark Heating. Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show. I am your host, Steve Suarez, with RJ Graham Plumbing. I want to thank my guest, Mr. Steven Suarez Jr. I kind of threw him to the wolves and threw a bunch of questions that he probably wasn't really prepared for today on water treatment, and he responded very well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You did well. And I want to welcome Rob with Zark Heating and Cooling. It's been a little bit since I had you on the
thanks
show.
for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
And so what have you been up to?
It's just been a crazy summer. Trying to overcome obstacles as far as equipment shortages. Mm-hmm. It seems like COVID is kind of over, but there's still equipment shortages and shipment issues and stuff like that. But the supply houses and stuff that we work with are doing a great job and coming up with alternate equipment. I mean, we've even had it where some person would select a furnace or an air conditioner, maybe a lower grade. That one's not in stock. Well, the supply house still wants to get our business and stuff, so they're going to give the homeowners, and I just pass it right on to the homeowners, because they're already set on the price. We'll get the equipment a better grade for the same price.
Nice.
So that helped out quite a bit. We've had a great summer. And it's been kind of hit or miss here the last couple weeks because the air conditioners haven't been running as hot and heavy as they were. But, it's been a great summer, and we've overcome a lot of the equipment issues. Mm-hmm. The Department of Energy came out earlier this year, 23, they're going to redesign and redesignate the efficiencies of air conditioners. So an air conditioner goes off of SEER ratings, SEER. That stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio.
Okay.
They're kind of doing away with that. I haven't read up on it enough to give you the new acronym, but going off of the old ratings and stuff, the old SEER ratings, the minimum was a 13 SEER. So they're going to bump it up a little bit. All air conditioners now manufactured are going to have to be a minimum of 14 SEER.
Okay.
And just trying to get more energy savings and stuff for people's houses and stuff like that. But it's just been crazy, and now we're just starting to ramp up. getting into the getting our guys and our trucks and stuff ready for furnace season, because that's going to be here before you know it. And typically August, September, October is usually a big rush for guys and ladies, I guess, too, doing their man caves or their she sheds, putting in unit heaters and stuff like that, so they could stay outside kind of as long as they can and just add more space and more value to your home.
That makes sense. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about these new units that are coming out, and obviously with the old units being bought out and out of stock, and supply issues being kind of what they are, I guess the question I'm asking is, with the older units, I guess are they making these units? Are you finding repair parts for them? I mean, for the older units, and are they starting to, with these things changing, are they going to start, with the SEER energy ratings changing, are they going to start making it so, stop making parts for the older units, and now it's like, okay, I got to buy a new unit?
I think it's a good question, but I think what they're kind of starting to do, because I've run across some issues where a homeowner needs a circuit board, and maybe their circuit board, a section or circuit board melted, and it melted like the wiring harness.
Right.
All right, well, we need a wiring harness. Those aren't as common part failures, so the manufacturers are taking those minor things off the list. So now the homeowner is kind of up against a wall, because you have to replace your furnace because wiring harnesses are not available for it. The Molex, the plastic plugs and everything, that's all melted. So you can still buy a circuit board, but you can't land the wires to it, so you're kind of in a bit of a conundrum at that point.
Right.
So I think they are, with the labor shortage and all of that stuff that their manufacturers are experiencing, they are scaling back on their replacement parts. I mean, some universal parts you can probably get to make work or something like that, but any kind of specialty items I could see getting kind of shorthanded here in the near future.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, making things work.
Yeah, no. But there are universal parts,
right?
You know what I mean? Instead of going with an OEM,
right?
You know what I mean? You can get it, get it by write it up for somebody that they know. I mean, in the moment, they might not have the resources to replace their furnace.
Right.
In the middle of winter, you got to get them some heat. You have to kind of make something work for get them through.
I just found when you get parts that aren't OEM parts, what happens is you wind up, the part doesn't fit right. They don't
last as long either.
It doesn't last. There's certain variances of it. That's the reason why it's a universal part.
Yep.
And it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't provide me the comfort. But what it does, like you said, is it does give you the repair until you can order the actual longer lasting part.
Correct.
Or till there's a decision that can be made on what to do with the unit.
Yep. Whether it's a question of they have to get their finances in order, they wanted to talk it over with their spouse before we offer the financing and all of that stuff. There's different avenues we could go down, but main thing is to get them up and going for now, and then we could figure that out on the back nine.
Right. Well, that's, I agree with you wholeheartedly on it. I just know that a lot of these products that are being made, a lot of them are with, and it's, again, you got a perfect storm here. It's, all right, I can't find parts for it, and I want to do some, I want to get this going, and, you're finding it with appliances where it's like, okay, well, this thing's only 5 years old. Oh, yeah, well, we don't make, the parts to replace or repair it are going to be, with parts and the labor to repair it is almost as much as the new unit. So it's like, okay, that's my appliance. It's like, is that starting to bleed into, the HVAC industry?
Older generations of the blower motors, when they first switched from the standard blower motor, which was called the PSC motor, when they switched to ECM or variable speed, if one of those go bad, you're upwards and you're knocking on the door sometimes of over $2,000 just to replace a blower motor. Is that going to be a good idea on a 17-year-old furnace? No. It's going to make more sense to throw that money, even if you don't have the money. Maybe you have the money for the repair, but not for the furnace. Then throw that money down as your down payment just to offset your monthly costs and finance the rest of it.
Yeah, it would make more sense. At least you get a warranty on that.
Yeah.
you're when you invest in something that's that old, you can spend all the money in one part and then only have other things fail, and once they start to fail, that starts nickel and diming you to the point where 2 years later you're down. You're going to be upside down on that.
Yeah, you could have already bought a new unit,
right? And then it finally goes, and then now you're out that money that you spent. Then now you have a new unit.
Yeah.
So I get it. I was just seeing some of the stuff and the way the world is changing with a lot of these parts. It's forcing people forcing the hand on certain things. And I guess I would ask you this. This is another one I wanted to ask you as far as these units. How long do furnaces last? A decent, contractor grade, one that you would install that that you're proud of. And the reason why I say that is because there's products that you can buy that aren't really all that good. I mean, we as plumbers see that too.
Yep.
There's products out there that I wouldn't really recommend putting this in because it's not going to last as long. Its durability is questionable.
Yes,
it may be a popular name, but it's not something I would really warranty for a long period of time just because of, like I said, its durability issues. How long would you say for a decent one? How long would you say a furnace and condenser unit should last?
That's a little bit of a loaded question because the builder's grade equipment that you can buy, it's just a cheaper version of the manufacturer and stuff that we represent. Those you get an average of about 12 to 15 years out of. The higher end or the residential grade version from the same manufacturer, you could expect, and I know they're not going to like me saying this, but you could expect getting 20 plus years out of them. Any manufacturer wants to move equipment. We don't like moving equipment unless it needs to be replaced. You know what I mean? If it's just a matter of replacing it and or repairing it, and it makes sense to do so, that's what we're going to do. We want to make it right for everybody involved. But with proper maintenance and making sure everything is working the way it should, that's going to help get the longevity and stuff out of it. Kind of like doing oil changes for your car.
Makes sense. And not only that, but as these units get older, and the newer ones come out, it's like with anything else, the energy efficiency goes up. So you may have an older unit that's working. As long as you know that it's not going to be as efficient as some of the newer ones out, ones that out, then you know that, okay, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And most people would be okay with it. It's like, they could probably do other things. And that's another question I was going to ask you, is there's other things that they can do in their home to maybe offset, the furnace maybe not being as efficient by making and conserving energy in the house?
There is something as simple as what goes for heating and air conditioning. A lot of people in the summer want to get the sun in their house and whatever. But when you do that, you're picking up a lot of solar gain. So now you're just air conditioning your house just because you're letting your son in. I don't want to let my son in. He follows me here. It's like, get out of here. Keep your blinds and your drapes and stuff closed to block that. That's going to help. You know what I mean? So different stuff like that.
Basically live like a vampire.
Yeah. If you're looking to save money, then yes. Yeah, especially for air conditioning. Heating season, you want to open up your blinds.
Right.
Get that in, you know what I mean? Get the sun in, or heating season, get the air conditioner, I can't even talk. Heating season, open up your windows
on the radio.
To get the sun in. And then as soon as the sun goes down or it's not in those windows anymore, you want to close them back up, and especially if you have drafty windows, stuff like that. It's just a lot of common sense stuff, but a lot of the maintenance goes a long way with it. And you're going to extend the life of your equipment with that.
You're not wrong with that as far as opening up your blinds in the winter, because my in-laws lived downstate, and my mother-in-law would open up they had huge picture windows in the front of the house, and they would open up their blinds. They didn't really have to run their heat until at night.
Yep.
And later at night, because the way the house was laid out, it would heat up the whole living area.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I was surprised. Remember that, Steve? It's like, it was really weird. It's like, it's warm in here. And then my wife told me, she goes, Dad, they never ran the heat because of that.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool. And you mentioned that it's definitely use some of that to your advantage to cut your It cuts your heating bills.
Yeah, on a sunny days. I mean, we don't get a lot of sunny days around here in the winter. It's usually doom and gloom and stuff. But on the sunny days when you can, you know.
You're not lying. No wonder why people are cranky half the time.
But just jumping back real quick on as far as the different equipment and stuff, there's a subdivision that we service in Manhattan, and the equipment's only a year, 2 years old. We found that there's this crack happening where we cannot braze it where it's at because it's a spot where two different metals join. You know what I mean? It's a robot welded spot. You know what I mean? It's not a repair that we can make in the field. And their units are 2 years old. We called the supplier, and the supplier's like, "Oh yeah, we have replacements, but we're not due to manufacture those parts until September." Well, if you don't have air conditioning in June, who's going to wait until September?
They're not.
Exactly. So that, luckily, it's not the manufacturer that we represent. But the majority of those homeowners at that point are like, well, then forget it. This is a builder's grade, lower kind of quality. They cheapened it up, whatever they had to do. And then they just ended up swapping out their condensing unit at that point, just because they couldn't wait that long.
Right.
If that factory is the only spot you could get the parts from, and they're not making them until the end of summer.
That's frustrating.
It stinks. Yeah.
Oh, that's frustrating. That would irritate me to no end. I mean, and so basically, what we're saying is on these units is what we want to do is you want to keep them in tip-top shape. Understand that when you're calling for service that you might know, if you know your unit, don't be upset at the service guy if he gives you information that you really don't want to hear.
Yeah,
I mean, that you don't
happen.
like hearing. Yeah, I mean, it is possible with just where we are right now with the way products are being built. And the reason why I say that is because I hear people and I see them on social media where, I need to get an HVAC guy or a plumber or this and that I can, or electrician that I can trust so I don't get, I don't want to get taken advantage of. I don't do this. And it's like, and there are a lot of the reputations that we have as contractors are well earned. I mean, it, you've seen it. It's well earned.
Yep.
If anybody said that and I go through the house, I know I have to prove myself. And I'm not even going to blame you for feeling that way because as the trades, we did it to ourselves.
Yeah.
But I always like to say, know this is when you're getting this information, and the more information that you're getting inundated with information from the contractor. Ask a ton of questions, and then do your research. Because the more information that you find, you're going to find either A, what you or I tell them, all of us, are telling them is the truth, or B, they're going to call us liars.
Yeah. And
honestly, in this day and age, if you're giving people bad information, you're an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
Because honestly, they can check it out.
It's at their fingertips.
Exactly. It's right there. While you're giving them that information, you've got somebody there going and scrolling right through. And you want them to be able to say, yeah, exactly. This is the truth. This is what I want you to, this is what it is.
Yep.
So when you give them that information, then you can proceed on. An educated customer that knows exactly what's going on is a huge benefit because that right there, they've already, done the research. They already have an idea, or they know how to find this stuff. They're already with you, because then you're on the road to making, getting resolution.
Yep.
And having that information, or having somebody knowledgeable that is able to check this is great. And also, homeowners know that you can check this. And also, I mean, at least with me, and I've dealt with you on several occasions, and I've sent you referrals, and they've been very happy with you. Is just you give a lot of information so they can check it out.
Yep.
And they can take a minute to go look at it.
Yeah. Go check it out. Do what you have to. Research it. Whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
On the flip side of that, too, we've had people where we're swamped with calls, but I could take 10, 15 minutes. If the office staff can't handle a question, if something's going on, they'll bounce it out my way. And if I could take it, then I'll walk them through it. And there's been a handful of times where I could walk through somebody how to clean their flame sensor or do something just to get their furnace back online so they're not freezing.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Prepare to Repair show, brought to you by RJ Graham Plumbing. I'm here joined with Rob with Zark Heating and Cooling and Screamin' Steve. That's your new nickname, buddy. Right here on WJOL 1340. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more from Review. Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair Show. I am your host, Steve Suarez with RJ Graham Plumbing. Back with me is Rob with Zark Heating and Cooling, and Scuba Steve over there. How you doing, Scuba Steve?
Doing great.
And before the break, we were talking about just information. And, in the trades, we run into that where people are, skeptical. They're worried, concerned, fearful, so forth. And especially when your furnace is out or your AC is out and it's the hot or the coldest of days. And I always say, this is what I tell people, and maybe you can elaborate on this.
Sure.
I say find and interview companies when you don't need them. Yep. So in other words, it's like, you know what? I need an AC tune-up. I'm going to call Zark. Let me see how they do it. Let me see how their guys are.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I need a furnace tune-up. I'm going to check out, XYZ company. Okay. And then, I'm going to get an idea of what they're like. And then once you build up that rapport, like say if they, you go out there and they love what you did and then they call you for everything. They've called you for the smaller stuff.
Yep.
So then when that something happens, they've got someone.
Oh, yeah.
I've got someone that I trust. So when that phone call comes, I already know how they're going to operate. I already know the type of company I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people want to have. Whether it's your company or you want to have that person, that company.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to, because when you start going, and I see it on social media, and you want to do that with plumbers, electricians, all your people you're going to need in emergency. Same thing with auto mechanics. You're going to want to have, I got a guy. And it's not a literal thing where it's a guy that does. I've got somebody. I got a person.
Sure.
That is going to be there and I trust. You want that person that you have in your corner. You want to have that network. Because when you are resorting to going to social media to ask, and I want somebody reasonable, anybody know a cheap plumber, first of all, you're already going down a road and you're walking down a corridor. And once you get to the end of that door, or you get to that door, you're not going to like what's behind it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go and you say, I want good, reputable, solid, that's going to give me quality work, quality products, once you start going through that door, that is what is going to be the ones that's going to steer you right and get you, reputable, get you the quality people that you want, that's going to be the best for you. Because even them, they may not be the cheapest, but whatever repair they do, it's going to be done in your best interest, not in the best interest of somebody making a few dollars and they're going to be gone and won't answer your phone when you call them again. So, and that's what I think and that's what I try to tell people. It's like, yes, you may be on a budget. Yes, money may be tight. That is when you should be the most diligent. That's when you should put the most effort in and be the most diligent and check everything and ask a ton of questions, because you don't have the opportunity to be wrong. And getting the right people will make sure you'll go a long way. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing ever is, but it goes a long way to minimize your issues or you having a bad experience. It's much, that pool is a nice pool to be in, and there's very few sharks in there.
Yeah.
Is my theory.
Yeah, I've always said cheap work isn't good and good work isn't cheap.
Right.
I mean, to an extent, I'm not saying that you have to hammer everybody and charge exorbitant rates because you're the best around. You have to be fair.
Right.
But in order to be fair, there's stuff that comes with that. The proper licensing, the insurance.
Right.
Who's going to be there in the middle of the night when a problem arises? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Most of our customers sign up for a preventive maintenance plan. We call them our PMPs, where we go twice a year, once and clean the furnace, and then we'll come back in the spring and clean and tune the air conditioner. If they have any breakdowns in between that or any issues, they know that they could call and we'll be right there. And maintenance customers do not pay any overtime rates or anything like that to have us come out. So you're kind of saving in the long run that way as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it's when your back's against the wall, you want someone you can trust.
Yep.
You want to know who's going to have your back. And that's when you find reputable people. I want to know who I can count on. And having a company that you can count on is imperative. And I try to be that company. And am I perfect? No, not at all. I'll tell you 100% I'm not. But here's what I will do. I'm not perfect. I can't be. Nobody ever is.
Right.
But I will try to find the perfect resolution to that imperfection if I make a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do.
That's all you can do, yeah.
And I want to thank you also, too, is I had an issue with my AC unit, and you were able to help me out in get me to part and get whatever I needed to knock that out. And now that thing is fixed. It's kind of been an elusive little...
those are the hard ones.
Yeah, it's an elusive little electronic nuisance, if you will.
Yep.
But finally got it resolved, and with your help in narrowing it down, we were able to get it. And the great thing about this is when Rob and his team came out, they came out and looked at this, and they were trying to find out, because you couldn't find out what it was, because It was an electronic thing, and it was one of those turned out to be a switch, a relay.
Yep, it was so intermittent of an issue. When we were out there, it wasn't happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that would work, fail, and then work, and then fail. It was so intermittent, and so you couldn't recreate it. It was frustrating.
Yep.
And the thing is you guys tried to find it, and we took a wait and see, a diligent approach on it. And once we took that time, and I like to do that, you take the time, you found out what it wasn't, and then once it did, it's like, hey, I think it's this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. You go, it's a relay. That's what it's doing. Because you're not hearing, you're not doing this. You're like, it's a relay, and that relay wound up being a $12 part.
Yeah,
a $12 part that we were able to get and knock that out.
Yeah,
and that right there is why you get people that you trust and that are there and have your back.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And he's not doing it because he's on the radio. He's not, because honestly, I met him on social media. I've watched you do your thing, watched you build your company, watched you how you handled customers. I used you, saw how you did work with us, and I've referred you, and I've gotten the feedback from the referrals. And they have been, positive and happy with it. So that's how you build things. And that's how you find people. And people who stand by their work, that, my name means the world to me. That's how it is with mine.
Same, yeah. Same here.
It is with you. So I appreciate you, being able to do that for me and this is my personal review, and being able to have you do that and having a guy. I've got my guy.
Got your guy, yeah.
Yeah,
same here.
I got a plumber. Me.
Right.
I've got a guy that handles HVAC.
Yep.
And, now I'm trying to find an electrician. I'm trying to find a good, solid electrician.
I got a guy.
You got a guy?
I got a guy.
Okay. Well, we got to talk about that, because I like to put people through the vetting process and everything, and I want them, see what, they have to meet that.
Oh, yeah.
That bar. And I have that bar it's high. Because that's how I have everything. It has to be a certain level, otherwise it's not acceptable.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about trying to find a contractor, I tell people all the time that it's always better to be proactive than reactive. You don't want to be put in a situation, oh, this is bad, now I have to replace all this. Well, now you're reacting to a problem. Be proactive, get your equipment, you know what I mean? See what's going on.
I've said that 100 times. Yeah. I tell people, because the thing is when you're playing offense, you're in control.
Yeah.
When you're playing defense, you're reacting to what everything has. So offense, you control when you spend it.
Yep.
Defense, it's telling you when you're spending that money, and that always happens when you don't have it.
Exactly.
So that's the way I always say it. And Rob, how do people get a hold of you?
You can reach us on our website, zarkhvac.com, or call, text, email. We're real easy to get a hold of. Our phone number is 815-482-9410. Message us on Facebook, social media. We're all over the place.
And if you see them driving around that older Chevy van that's got some nice shoes on it. So
the A-Team. The A-Team van.
The A-Team van. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Rob, for being on here. Thank you for coming on, making your debut, Steve, man. I appreciate your help and love you. I want to thank everybody for listening, and do head out to Ferguson Supply for all your kitchen, bath, and lighting and appliance needs. Your dream kitchen or bathroom is as close as Tinley Park. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.